Kia ora, everyone. Chester for Earth Sciences New Zealand. Lewis Ferris joins us from the Met Service. And Lewis, we are talking about rain, snow, chilly southwesterlies. I do want to frame this, though, before we get into it, that the snow is coming to an end for at least most of the areas in the South Island where we're seeing the rain. So by the snow. So by the time we get this video in your feed, it looks like that warning there at 3 o'clock will have expired. Lewis, what's going on with this weather and all these watches and warnings we got in place?
Well, you're absolutely right. We are on the back end of that lower snow risk, heading through the remainder of Thursday into Friday. It does look like that snow will be confined to more alpine areas, as we do still see further heavy rain along those western ranges. It was a interesting weather situation. If you looked at it earlier in this week, it looked incredibly bad, but the models have kind of come into line, and I think we've actually got out a forecast that has been appropriately faced, because it did look like it could be a very intense system earlier in the week, but luckily for everyone, it hasn't come to fruition. But it's not over yet. We are going to see winds pick up around central parts of the country and then actually spread over the North Island as we get through the rest of this week. So there's still a little bit of activity around. It does look like it's kind of waning a little bit, but don't expect it to be all calm and sunny as we head into September, because it's spring.
Yes.
And spring is going to bring more of these westerlies, as is typical, but we might even see it a little bit on the upper end of what is normal for a spring month.
Right. So with that said, I mean, you mentioned the wind threat. I'll flick back to that image. We've got the wind watch. When is that in effect for, as of this recording?
Basically most of Friday,
Sure.
just easing overnight. But even through the rest of the weekend for Wellington, we're still going to be holding on to pretty stiff northerlies. So it's not going to be your perfectly sunny, calm weekend for many people. Maybe eastern parts of the South Island might get a bit of a break. But we're moving into quite a unsettled period where weather features will be moving by pretty quickly.
Right. Yeah, we're not done with the southwesterlies, if you will. I'm going to put the rain on the map here. We've got that winter storm that's moving through today here on Thursday. So we'll start the clock Thursday evening. Still some heavy rain, some heavy falls expected for the west of the South Island, right?
Yeah. And it did look like there was good potential to see quite a lot into drier parts in the east, and they have seen some rain, but again, luckily not as much as models might have picked earlier in the week. But we're going to see that rain move over the North Island, and it does look to linger around eastern parts of Bay of Plenty through the remainder of Friday into Saturday. So some accumulation of rain there, something to be aware of, but it is kind of moving on its way out and letting in those southwesterlies come in behind it.
Oh, yes, that colder weather that'll be returning. So as needed, you all will issue watches and or warnings potentially for the North Island as the system rolls over the North Island. But I want to display the wind, as you mentioned. It's a southwest change that's coming in, and it's going to bring some chillier temperatures once again.
Yeah, we did have some warmth, some almost record-breaking warmth
Yeah.
in parts of Canterbury earlier in the week with those northwesterlies, but we're going to be seeing a drop in temperatures. But it's going to be a bit of a upsy down, the yo-yo temperature type time for Canterbury with these westerlies setting up. There'll be northwesterlies at time, and then they'll turn around southerly. So, I mean, it is typical spring stuff, but I think that idea of having changeable weather in mind, especially for next week, is probably not a bad thing to have.
Right. And speaking of next week, I actually wanted to bring up the NIWA 35. For those who aren't familiar, that's that outlook that goes out, well, essentially 35 days. And this is the expected rainfall anomaly. So the difference from the normal amount of precipitation, green would be wetter than normal, brown leaning dry or drier than normal. And it's a pretty clear signal here through the last few days of August and right on through most of September. It's that westerly quarter flow, right? Similar to what we're seeing this weekend. And the west of the South Island will get the majority of the rainfall. This is a classic El Nino signal. So we're getting into spring. We're going to see that windy weather start to pick up. We'll see those southwesterlies, occasionally nor'westerlies. That's going to impact temperatures. But I think the big takeaway here, Lewis, is if you live in the west of the South Island, wetter than average. Everybody else, there's probably going to be a dry lean through the next several weeks. So I think for both, us here at Earth Sciences New Zealand and you all at Met Service, that means that there'll be plenty of storms to talk about that'll be coming in from the southwest, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. There will be no shortage of fronts. They'll be coming thick and fast, but they tend to be short-lived, but they can bring that intense burst of rain, especially to those western areas. And then it's just whether or not there's a cold front, cold change that zips up the east coast that could bring those drops in temperatures and maybe keep that rainfall about normal.
Yeah, and spring is a very changeable time, obviously. Temperatures, they're going to go back and forth. So I think we just need to get ready for the roller coaster ride, if you will.
Exactly. That's the perfect way to think about spring. Ups and downs, a roller coaster.
For better, for worse, Mother Nature's taking us on this ride. Lewis Ferris from the Met Service, thanks for joining us.